guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 13 on DraftKings. We're going to build an NFL DFS tournament lineup. I'm just checking my watch and it's like 7 days before lineups lock. So please don't think of this lineup as something you're going to copy paste. That's something an idiot would do. And I know that you're not an idiot. So we're going to use this as a lineup building practice. We're going to build a double stack bring back lineup with a secondary stack, build through correlation to try and attack the top of the lineups on any GPP because that's the strategy that I use. Everything comes down to game selection, whether you're playing large field, small field, single entry, 3 max, or mass multi-entry. You need to try and build a lineup for the games that you are playing. My preferred tournament style is to double stack and bring back. That's what we do every week on this video. And we're going to continue that today. We're also going to take a look over at the Fantasy Football channel. I wanted to remind you about the recap video there. We'll talk about that in just a second. And if you wanted to get to be a part of our Discord, go to smizzle.tv/Discord, where if you become a subscriber, whether it's here, go to smizzle.tv/join to become a YouTube channel member, or you can subscribe directly in the Discord at smizzle.tv/Discord. Your name will turn green. You'll get access to the cheat sheet that comes out every Friday, as well as all of the VIP rooms where you can find somebody of the 10,000, 11,000 members in our Discord to discuss whatever it is that you want about daily fantasy sports. If you're playing NBA, if you're playing hockey, if you're playing NFL cash or tournaments, there's always somebody to discuss it with because daily fantasy sports can be an extremely isolating thing to play. This gives you a community of like-minded, mature people to discuss the game and try to get better every single day. So thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
Every week I come out with a recap video that lives over on the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel. Go to smizzle.tv/FF or just type in the search bar up here on YouTube, Al Smizzle Fantasy Football, and it will come right up for you. Tons of videos historically as well as in the off season. Every week I do a recap video where I talk about how I did that weekend, my cash game lineup, my tournament lineup. So people who say, well, I want to see how you did, I want transparency, all of that is over on the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel. And that video for week 12 should be out by the time you're watching this one. So definitely go check that out. Let's go take a look at this particular slate. The Miami Dolphins favored by 9.5, total of 50 in this one against the Commanders. That's a route you can go. Getting on to Tyreek Hill, I'm for it. Go for it. Detroit Lions and the Saints. Lions favored by 4, 45.5. Chargers and Patriots. Chargers by 6, total of 40 in that one. So what does that make the Chargers team total? 24, like around there. Implied team total around 23.5 or 24. Panthers and Buccaneers. Panthers by 5, total of 37.5, but Carolina is somebody we want to stream against with opposing running backs pretty much all the time. Falcons go up against the Jets, favored by 3, 34 is the total there. Gross. Cardinals against the Steelers, who just had over 400 yards in total offense after firing Matt Canada. And the last time that they had 400 yards was the last game they played before Matt Canada took over the offense. So maybe the Steelers are back after it right now. 5.5 point favorites, 39.5 is the total there. Colts, Tennessee Titans, Colts -2, 43 is the total here. Broncos and the Texans, 3.5, total of 46. Texans looks like a shootout team pretty much every single week. Broncos very efficient offensively so far. And as I put on Twitter yesterday, they're the embodiment of the please, sir, call an ambulance, but not for me. That's the Broncos season in a nutshell. 1-5, and now they've won the last 5. 49ers go up against the Eagles in the premier game of the day, and there's things that we can attack in this one. 49ers -3, 47 is the total here, and the final game on the slate, Browns against the Rams. Rams at home and favored, -4.5 against Cleveland Browns. Solid defense, however, they have been struggling against opposing running backs recently. So let's start. Here's the Listener League. If you have not joined the Listener League, make sure that you get in there. Go to smizzle.tv/links. As always, $10, 3 max, 40,000 the prize pool. Absolutely zero rake on this one. Best tournament that exists on DraftKings, but it is not available in the DraftKings lobby. You've got to go to smizzle.tv/links, and you can find the link to just about everything that I do right there. Please just go right down the list. Click, 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 click. It's free. Click all the things for free. You can find the Discord, the Fantasy Football channel, the Listener League link, everything. Go follow. So looking at the games and looking at the totals in these games, let's start with the running backs. Let's see where we want to go. Actually, you know what? Let's just plug in a cheap defense there. Fine. Whatever. Let's start at running back. Christian McCaffrey is very expensive, going up against Philly, who is extremely tough against running backs, but like so was Tampa Bay, and they gave up 21.3 points to Christian McCaffrey. Now he gets a little bit of extra rest because of the Thursday Thanksgiving Day game where he was beaten and battered and bruised, but survived and scored 33.9 DraftKings points. He's a machine. However, he is $9,000. If value opens up over the course of the week, I'm sure that we'll be able to get there. Austin Eckler hasn't had a good game in a couple of weeks. I don't know what happened in that play against Green Bay. Like, he ran down the sideline on the left side, right? Going right to left on your television. He was down the left sideline, and like they clocked him with the chip in the shoulder. I absolutely love Austin Eckler. I love the story. I love the UDFA story behind him. I love how well he's done. He's been a fantasy dog for us for years, but like they clocked him at 13 miles an hour. I'm hoping that he was just a little banged up on that play. I'm hoping that all of the carries and touches and everything all the hits he's had to take, he's been injured basically every year of his career for at least a little bit of time, and dealing with all of that as a running back. I'm hoping that he's not at the point where like all of the injuries have slowed him down, but a 13 mile an hour streak down the sideline correlates with a 6.5 second 40 time. That's bad. I don't like that. Like I said, I'm hoping it was just one play where like maybe he had a cramp or maybe something was going on, but like that's not a good. 8,300 for him against New England if you wanted to pay for it. Alvin Kamara against the second best run defense. However, that's over the course of the whole season. Detroit's been exploitable the last 3-4 weeks on an EPA per play basis. They've been giving it up to opposing teams a lot. Alvin Kamara, with all of the injuries right now that the Saints are dealing with in the passing game, they may have to lean a lot more on Kamara moving forward than they have the last few weeks. And we may see a return to this level of usage where he was getting 14 targets in games early in the season. We may see a return to that. We'll wait and see. They're playing against Detroit, who has struggled since like week 7. They have not been as good defensively. Raheem Mostert going against Washington, 7,300 for him. He will be dealing with the return of Devon Achane allegedly in this game. Monitor his injury as the week goes along. He's down here at 6,900. They priced them very close together. Jonathan Taylor going up against Tennessee, the previous run funnel. People were worried that Jonathan Taylor was going to be chalk last week and would fail. No targets was shocking, and I was a little bit worried about that. He got lucky to get there for you if you played him at 21 points because of the 2 touchdowns scored, but he was extremely efficient on the ground. Even though he didn't rip off a really large run, a lot of his runs were very successful from a win rate point of view. Offensive line blocking extremely well. He may see a big game in this one, but like Kyren Williams is the show. As I mentioned, the Browns are a good defense. We know that, but they're a little dinged up, and offensively, they don't do a whole lot of things well right now. Because of their quarterback situation. They just can't move the ball, so they're losing the field position battle. 169 yards rushing against them for Denver, 172 yards against for Pittsburgh. Baltimore ran for 106 against them in a game that the Browns actually came back and won in the final game that Deshaun Watson was there, but like they were down 31 to like 10 or whatever it was in that game. So I'm a hop right back on the Kyren Williams train. So like Kyren Williams with 22 opportunities last week, extremely efficient. The Rams have done a very good job of running the football with Kyren Williams in the games that he has played. And I absolutely love how good he is in the passing game as well. He's getting kind of the Eckler usage that we were used to for all those years across the locker room for the Chargers, but we're getting that out of Kyren Williams now. And as I said, the Browns have been bleeding against opposing running backs recently. A couple of cheaper options that we can look to coming down in here. Najee Harris squares off against Arizona, a team that we want to stream against all the time. Him or Jaylen Warren, depending on which route you want to go. Neither one of them is going to get the lion's share. They're going to split basically 50-50, and you're relying on getting touchdowns or big gains from either one because none of them are going to get 25 opportunities. I prefer Warren because of his inclusion in the passing game. We saw Javonte Williams the last few weeks gather a lot more usage. 30 opportunities against KC, 25 against Buffalo, only 13 against Minnesota, looking like the Russian judge, but 24 more opportunities against Cleveland. This is a spot where you may want to hop on Javonte Williams, as this game could shoot out. Singletary still the lead dog right now. The offense does look better with him out there, but he's not going to get the amount of carries with Dameon Pierce back. He is out snapping Pierce, but they were in a situation where they had to throw a ton this week. That seems to be every week for them right now, and I'm fine with it, because if they're going to be a pass funnel offense where they just throw it to one of their 3 wide receivers or tight end, and one of them always seems to be hurt. It's been Noah Brown the last couple of weeks. It was Nico Collins for a couple of weeks. As long as they don't have 4 wide receivers, we can predictably say where the ball is going to go. But Rachaad White popped on the injury list, and he kind of popped on the injury list because I feel like they were afraid of getting fined, and it scared a lot of people off of him. Extremely efficient on the ground against Indy, a very giving team against running backs, averaged 6.7 yards per carry on the ground, only got 2 targets in that game, scored 16 fantasy points, and now he gets at home and favored the Carolina Panthers, who outside of the Denver Broncos, and the Denver Broncos were a team that gave up 8,000 rushing yards in one game earlier this year, and like 7 touchdowns to opposing running backs in one game this year. That's kind of screwing the curve in terms of defense versus position. If you were to take that game out, Carolina far and away is the best running back matchup that we have, Arizona being number 2. I'm going to attack them right here with Rachaad White. That leads us to the double stack that we want to go with. So Cleveland Rams, no. Philadelphia and San Francisco. If you want to go with another double stack, I'm fine with it. Pick whoever you want and look for an offensive environment that is very solid to go with. Now, these 2 teams have struggled against specifically one thing: opposing wide receivers. And NFL MVP has essentially the last, I forget how many seasons, 7 or 8 seasons, has gone to whoever has led the league in terms of EPA per play. And Jalen Hurts right now is the odds-on favorite to win the MVP award, but he's like 6th in the league in EPA per play. He also costs 8,200. He's probably got, not probably, he has the highest floor of any quarterback on a week in, week out basis because of how much he brings to the table with his rushing yards, the upside he gives you with his rushing touchdowns, as well as having fantastic weapons on the outside. He has not gone off through the air since the game against Washington. He may have to against San Francisco, as they are very good against the run and struggle against outside wide receivers, specifically something that he has in spades. And now without Dallas Goedert in there with the injury that he has suffered, now more stuff is going towards Devontae Smith, whose price stays at around 7,300. But the number 1 quarterback in the league in terms of EPA per play is right here. The pizza delivery guy. He's delivering the pizzas. Brock Purdy back to doing what he has done. Now look, they didn't have to throw the ball a ton against Seattle because they were just gashing them on the ground. They were beating them very easily, so they could just get away from doing it. 21 completions in this game, 21 against Tampa Bay. He had 3 touchdowns here, including a 76-yard one. He had that one to Ayuk on Thanksgiving Day. I think that we get a solid performance here from him because I don't think that they're going to be able to run the ball as effectively, which lends itself to more pizza delivery. Pick up your shirt. Go to smizzle.tv/store if you want to get the pizza delivery shirt. It's there for you. So Brock Purdy is going to be our quarterback because he's only 6,100, gives us access to these 2 teams with really, really high implied point totals, a very high expectation in terms of offense in this game, in my opinion. Both defenses are solid, but both have weaknesses, and you have coaching staffs that do a great job of scheming things up to take advantage of it. So let's stack through the wide receivers. If you wanted to go with George Kittle at 6,200, that seems a little pricey to me with every option that's available to their coaching staff. Now look, that is how we attack Philadelphia. We'll have to see. But Philly, the toughest team against opposing running backs. McCaffrey, very expensive. I think he's matchup proof just based on how good he is in the passing game. But the prices for Brandon Ayuk at 7,200 seems too cheap from a tournament perspective, and Deebo Samuel at 6,200 also too cheap from a tournament perspective. And if Purdy is able to be efficient against this Philadelphia outside the hash, if lack of efficiency at stopping downfield passes, as we saw that exploited again with Gabe Davis having the big day against them last weekend in week 12. Give me both of these guys. And then Devontae Smith gets 1.5 more targets per game the last 2 seasons in games where Dallas Goedert is missed. So we had this yo-yoing target rate, 10 in week 1, 5, then 9. It was all over the place, right? Because Goddard was there. In some games they would go to Goddard. Some games they were peppering AJ Brown with targets every single week. And so there were some weeks that Devontae just kind of got schemed out of things. But the last 2 games, tough opponents against Kansas City and against Buffalo, 8 targets, no Goddard in either game, remains at 7,300 as opposed to the 8,800 for AJ Brown. I'm not saying AJ Brown's a bad play. I'm certainly not saying that Christian McCaffrey's a bad play, but this allows us to do the things that we kind of want to do with this lineup, give us access to upside players with volume, touchdown ability, as well as 2 running backs in 5-box situations who have touchdown upside to them. So this is looking like a very high ceiling lineup. Everybody asked me, Alvin, how come you do not, how come you don't open up 2 tight ends? Fine, I'll open up 2 tight ends just for you guys, okay? You don't need to. I think that there's more upside with wide receivers who can get there on one play. Pretty rare for tight ends to go with, a 50-yard touchdown. What we've seen is that really relies on just these guys up at the top. Guys like Kittle, we've seen the big plays from him, 66-yarder, 34-yarder, 28-yarder back in week 7. Same thing for Sam Laporta. The rookie is kind of having an outlier year in terms of statistical output from a rookie tight end. Takes tight ends 2 or 3 years really to kind of get into the groove, but big plays early in the season and last week against Green Bay, the 31-yarder that he caught on 8 targets. But you got to pay up to get it. There is a tight end that's a little bit cheaper. There's a few, okay? We can focus in on McBride, who's still not enough for the volume that he's getting. 9 targets for under 5,000 is entirely too cheap. Pat Freiermuth, 11 targets last week against 2 high safeties, something that they said that they were looking to exploit after the game. Cincinnati plays a ton of 2 high. Arizona, 10th in the league in terms of defensive formations with 2 high safeties. That's via Scott Barrett over at Fantasy Points. Thanks for that tweet, Scott. If you don't follow him, Scott Barrett, DFB over on Twitter, go give him a follow. Give me a follow while you're at it too. And so there's plenty of guys that we could target in here, but somebody who's had a little bit, a favorite of mine, and going up against Indy, who accentuates everyone's offensive ability. There's not all that much, but since the change to Will Levis at quarterback, we've seen a lot more usage out of Chigo Okonkwo on a week in, week out basis at 3,100. We certainly need a salary relief valve at this point. Love the shot here. This looks great to me. So I think Okonkwo has the ability to get deep down the seam. That's something that he has shown us last year. One of the best tight ends in the league in terms of air yards per target. And we have that at 3,100, which opens up 4,200 in salary. So while I feel that somebody like Freiermuth is an extremely solid play this week, who schematically looks like he's in a spot for another smash against a defense that his team could attack with the assumption of rational coaching. They just showed us that is how they rationally want to attack things and then did it in practice. So Freiermuth certainly in play, but I just can't afford him. I only have 4,200. So here you go. I need lineup correlation, so I'm going to go with David Njoku at 4,100 because I'm not at all petty. So I'm just going to play David Njoku coming off of another 9-target game at 4,100, giving us a 2 tight end lineup that everybody wants, as well as playing David Njoku, which apparently everybody wants me to do. So Brock Purdy, Kyron Williams, Rashad White, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Smith, Chigo Okonkwo, David Njoku, and plug in a cheap defense. I wish you guys the best of luck. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.